So would you be so kind and leave us some peace, as we would like to start off our peaceful and friendly discussion. Very good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll try to speak Polish, I try to speak a bit Ukrainian, I'll try to speak a bit English in order to facilitate our conversation today. We actually are very lucky because on today's panel we have four strong supporters and fans of tennis. And as the fans of tennis, and we had a quick chat before the meeting, so we confirmed that each of us likes to play tennis, and probably the best is Aleksander Kwaśniewski, but Mr. Klitschko said that he also has some stronger first serve. I like to use that case as at 2 o'clock we had kind of a warm-up because on Ukraine there was a discussion led by Kalman Mijay, and as you remember, with the participation of Deputy Prime Minister Valery Roszkowski. So after the warm-up, we can go straight to our discussion with our distinguished panelists. And let me first turn to President Kwaśniewski, as the Ukrainian spoke about Ukraine. So let me maybe turn to the Pole and ask him about his views on this hectic subject. And Mr. President, do you share the view that Ukraine has been recently marginalized on the international stage, and that there are some transformation signs which are proving that maybe the whole process of Ukrainian transformation has been stalled? So what is the Polish view as somebody as experienced as you, who not only were successful in Poland, but also traveling around the world, and you do the so-called transition handover of experience. So, Mr. Kwaśniewski. One.
Też z tego wynika, mam techniczny problem, ale też wszystko działa. Czy Ukraina jest marginalizowana?
Ukraine is being marginalized. Well, I don't know. The answer can be that in a certain sense, yes. But please allow me, before I get into detail, I would like to outline a certain picture which give us basis to saying that in the matter of Ukraine and Ukrainian affairs, we could say that the state of the country and the problems have never been as serious as they are now, after comparing to the last 20 years. And I've had experience of Ukraine both as a politician and member of party, but also as a president, and I was very much involved in the revolution, so-called Orange Revolution in 2004-2005. And I can say that at that point, the situation was far more promising than it is now. I would like to point out three elements. Of course, first of all, we have a global crisis and at the same time European crisis. That crisis in Europe doesn't only bring the specific economical problems in both Europe and Ukraine, but also brings some political consequences. It's enough to mention Greece and Spain, with the threats and the crisis of governments in Europe, the disputes over expanding European Union. And naturally, when you apply it to expanding European Union by accessing such a large and populous country as Ukraine, the issue gets put aside in the present circumstances. So we can say the Ukrainian issue has been put on ice to a degree, and I consider it a certain mistake because this freeze applied to Ukrainian affairs doesn't bring any benefits to it. Generally speaking, of course, Europe in crisis is a very difficult partner to discussions about the Ukrainian future. Second aspect is the Russian plans, which obviously I have no doubt that President Putin, after his 6-year term of office, has 2 terms, short and a long term. Short term, obviously, is the successful organization of Sochi Winter Olympics, and the long term, naturally, is to build a Euro-Asian Union, which would involve countries like Russia, Kazakhstan, and it will be another countries from the region, and it will be constructed as a economic political union, which at the end of the current term of office of Putin will create opportunity of saying for Putin and his supporters is at the end of his term where he saw Russia and Tatars, finally at the end of it he achieved some kind of recuperation of the status quo, not resurrecting Soviet Union as such, but creating a value which is able to replace it. Therefore, pressure, both political and economical, which will be applied to Ukraine to join this Euro-Asian project of Putin, it will be a hard power method. Obviously, the price war related to prices of energy, gas, petrol, etc., but also the soft power solution, which would be the pressures on culture, migration, tourism, and underlying the common roots of cultural language traditions of Ukraine and Russia would mean that the pressure will be very strong and persisting in the strategy of the next 6 years of Putin rule. And if I can quote the words of the Ukrainian politician that, of course, Ukraine achieved its target, but naturally the achievement of these targets would be constantly valued by the Ukrainian electorate and the observers of the situation. And therefore, Europe should consider its role as a strategic partner which would anchor interests of Ukrainian electorate in the European parts, not in the Russian. And the third factor, of course, is Ukraine itself. I must say my experience in Ukraine involved everything, perhaps except for the rule of Vitali Klichko. I look forward to that, perhaps. But when President Yanukovych took power, we could say that there was a consolidation in the power structures which hasn't been seen for several years, and therefore the Orange Revolution and this destructive conflict between different parts of the electorate and political stage in Europe has been terminated, and the fact that Ukraine was able to sign the partnership contract with European Union is certain effect of that progress and consolidation of Ukrainian political scene. Well, we're seeing Ukraine on plus, but we mustn't forget about negative aspects, the scale of negative problems and problems in Ukraine. Obviously, is something that we have to face because that consolidated power does not undertake any form of dialogue with the opposition. Therefore, what can be seen in Ukraine Ukraine, divisions within the society and the political world in Ukraine are very, very deep and will be difficult to bridge. They may be almost unbreachable, and therefore it is something that will play a significant role in the future. For example, the partnership and with Europe and organization of Euro 2012 proved that Ukraine can be effective. However, certain moves that should be undertaken as in power, as in fight against corruption and further adaptation to European standards and requirements has not been implemented to the extent that is expected, and the determination in building the institution of the state of law does not seem to be strong enough. The situation of Yulia Tymoshenko does not put her in a position of Joan d'Arc fighting for the political rights in Ukraine. No, the situation is that both that case and perhaps even more so the members of her cabinet, one of the ministers, obviously involved in that whole sorry affair, reflect the political tensions and politically motivated sentences that have been pronounced. There are certain expectations on the part of European politicians, European Union, as to applying certain judicial and democratic standards. But on the other hand, Ukraine doesn't seem able to relate to it adequately, and this brings a certain amount of sadness to me, because the efforts of the last 20 years seem to have, for the time being, founded in a very kind of depressing way, and the inability of improving the judicial and political culture of the country, the code of law that has been functioning in Ukraine from since Khrushchev times, and there were several promises over the years of changing it, still is in existence and is being applied. Therefore, altogether, we can say that Ukraine is in a state of crisis which requires very determined actions, and perhaps the opportunity of discussing these problems during the electoral campaign should be used in a positive way to contribute to introducing positive changes of covering discrepancies and making up for the lost ground. The situation is quite dramatic, and its effects might lead to very dramatic results.
Mr. Kwaśniewski's intervention, let me make 2 points and 2 questions that directed to you. First is, and this is the very much Polish point of view, to find ourselves in a so-called buffer zone was for us in the 90s the worst case scenario. We always wanted to, as soon as possible, like other Central European countries, return to the family of democratic countries of Western Europe. And it was primary objective. We were never interested in being in between. Здесь Советский Союз, здесь Западная Европа и Большая Польша. Never. That's why it was famous saying in Poland, return to Europe or rejoin the Europe as the most important political paradigm. So not to be in a buffer zone is because a buffer zone is more dangerous than go to the ring against Klitschko. That's my first lesson from Mr. Kwaśniewski. And second, which was not discussed at the first panel, that we strongly believe that economic and political change must go hand in hand. That not only economic transformation is important because we want to improve the quality of life, of standard of living of the ordinary people, but also we believe that political transformation is important, is of critical importance. Political freedoms, liberties are fundamental for the system and principles we do believe. So would you agree, and would you be so kind and comment on it?
First of all, dear President, dear Prime Minister, dear Excellencies, dear friends, good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to be here in Poland. I'm very happy to be back in Wroclaw. Just 6 months ago. 6 months ago, exactly the same building. I have another press conference. It's a little bit different way. It's
About the same result, yes.
I talk about sport, but today we talk about politics. I was in Poland many times. You talk about 90s. I spent a lot of time in 90s. I actually old sportsman, and beginning of 90s I was pretty young. In 1991 I was one of millions of people who decided to vote for independence of our country, the independence of Ukraine. And exactly the same Iron Curtain fell down, and I was in 92, I was in Poland. Not huge difference between Poland and it was not huge difference between Poland and Ukraine. We have the same start position. Pretty long time I didn't visit Poland, and last year, actually almost after 17, 18 years, I come back to Poland. I was very surprised. I was very surprised because I spent a couple of weeks here in Poland, and I was surprised because Poland was right now more similar to Germany. I talk about infrastructure. I talk about the roads. I spoke with the people about social standards of life. I was very surprised because beginning of 90 we starting together to build new countries, Poland and Ukraine. And right now we have results. It's not everything is perfect, but anyway, Poland, member of European Union. Poland have huge changes and make huge steps. Ukraine, we declared European integration. We declared European integration many years ago, but we doesn't have good result. As a question, why? Why the Poland have power to make reform, make changes, make big steps? Not just Poland. We talk about Czech Republic, Slovakia, former Yugoslavian, Slovenia, and Hungary, many countries. Today, in Ukrainian people, more than 40% of people don't support any politician, any political party, any politician. Because in 1991 we hope we build new country. And if President Kuchma in 93 come into power, we hope it will be changes. It's lots of huge changes happens, and a lot of promising. 2004, everybody go to the street and demonstrate for democracy, for new vision of developing our country. And many people was also very upset. Orange Revolution happens, but result, country was more corrupted. And nothing changed in after 2004. And the result of Orange Revolution in 2010, President Yanukovych promising everything what not happens in 2004 it will be happens after his after the election, president election. 2 years is going. Is the situation in country much worse than was before. We declarate European integration, European way of development, but between declaration and implementation is huge different. And right now we slide back from democracy to authoritarianism, to dictator. And so many examples, President Kwaśniewski talked about that, about case Lutsenko, Tymoshenko, and many other oppositions. We look in the future. We try to see in the future what happens with Ukraine tomorrow, after tomorrow, and more than 60% of Ukrainian, more than sure, Ukraine developed in the wrong direction. Right now, the situation in Ukraine is not easy. We have to find the way, which direction we go. What happens tomorrow? And many questions many questions politicians don't ready to give the answer, and for these questions, because politics in Ukraine is totally corrupted and very painful to listen. It's Ukraine most corrupted country in the world, and it's also painful to listen for the people. People doesn't see the future in this country, and that's why it's unofficial numbers. More than 5 million Ukrainians work outside of the country because country don't give the chance for the people to work in this country. They leave the country. Many politicians told about worst case scenario, Egypt, Libya, or Tunisia. I hope it's not happens. And some politicians try to use these points to build him as politician. I'm more than sure Ukraine have, and everybody know that, Ukraine have huge potential. More than 20 years, almost 20 years, we try to use our potential, but we doesn't have result. Question: how we can do that? It's just one way. The answer is clear. We have to change the system. What does it mean? The politician right now in Ukraine work not for the country. The politician in Ukraine work for group of oligarchs, and a good example, it's no equal opportunity for business, it's monopoly, and the result in the last couple of years, in economic crisis time, everywhere in the world, there's a very bad situation in the economy, just in Ukraine. Numbers of billionaires is doubled, but people in Ukraine don't live better. His life is not double better. It's much worse. Just one answer for this question: the change system and kick out the politician who promising many times and use the politics as a business. And this one way, it's clear way. The election for parliament in end of October this year, and we hope together with opposition party we make majority and we build new government. It will be just first step. As the next step, we can short vision and long vision of development of Ukraine. If we look in the short vision, it's parliament election this year. And I hope the opposition make majority and we have a chance to change Ukraine. It's not easy. I'm not naive. It's a strong fight. No, it's fight. I'm specialist in the fight. You're right, but in the sport, if you compare Ukrainian politics and boxing, in boxing everybody see if the sportsman breaks the rules, he will be disqualified. In Ukraine, it's not sport; it's fight, no rules, and it's very important. We hope election will be fair and clear, and that's why I talk to many partners of Ukraine. We need much more observers in Ukraine and try to do it this election. It's democratic and clean, fair election. Yes, of course, it's a lot depend of friends of Ukraine, because Ukrainians want to do that, but we need help. It's clear, and it's clear. European Union want to see in the board of European Union is a country with a stable economic, financial and economic situation, in political, economic and political stable country in board of European Union. We're fighting for that, and it's not easy task, but I know better than anyone, without fight, no win. That's why it's big challenge for Ukraine, and also big challenge for everyone, for all friends of Ukraine.
Perfect. Thank you. We will get back to that shortly, because you raised at the end the issue of leadership. But let me turn now to Hanna Herman. Proszę panią, przed chwilą i prezydent Kwaśniewski i pan Klitschko mówili o pewnych słabościach.
Ask you a question because both President Kwaśniewski and Mr. Klitschko were just talking about weaknesses of Ukrainian situation during the last 20 years. And of course, in life, we apply the principle of comparing one to the other. And I would hope I'll be able to show a slide I prepared. And yes, there it is. If you compare development of Ukraine according to the World Bank and UN sources and Transparency International too, we can see that Ukraine, shown here in yellow in the bar chart, has a problem. Yes, it is developing, but the environment for running business is not very good. And these conditions for doing business regard ability to run a limited company. Exactly.
Conditions are concerned. Human Development Index, no też można by było zrobić więcej. Corruption Perception, no to już jest widać poważny problem. Czyli można powiedzieć, w porównaniu do innych krajów z regionu, pan Klitschko ma rację, ale również mają rację.
Of course, I can say that both Mr. Klitschko and Mr. Kwaśniewski are right when they say that the change should be based on political changes, first of all, because change in itself isn't just some kind of dream economic change leading to better conditions, but it has to involve also a change in political situation. What could I say? I can quote what President Kwaśniewski said in '93. He said then that democracy is a kind of costume that perhaps it's not best cut, but if you take it off, you remain naked. So perhaps let's not take off the costume. Perhaps we can adjust a tie and stay in it, because economic development and political development are just the same as in Poland in your Polish song, it takes two to tango. It's true that people in Ukraine are more concerned with having a job and how much they earn, will they go for holidays, and what kind of school their children go to, what about the health service. That is obviously true. And I can agree here with the Deputy Prime Minister Choroszkowski. This is something that most concerns people, but we also understand as authorities and opposition, because we have here such friendly opposition. We always choose the best. We always put the best foot forward, and we understand both the authorities and Mr. Klitschko that without political changes, it is not possible to have economic changes. That's why we are introducing reforms and reform law, first of all, and we try to make changes that Ukraine hasn't managed to make in the last 20 years. It's true that in 20 years we didn't do them, and it's true that we didn't manage to make these changes in the last 2 years, but we look forward to acting together. The prospect of autumn elections is ahead of us, and we do everything that the elections will be transparent and fair, and it is far more of a priority for us than an election win for our side. Yes, we of course would like to obtain a number of votes in the parliament. However, the most important thing is having transparent and fair democratic elections, and I hope we'll be able to do it together. And if we are able to do this, we will give thanks to Poland yet again. We will say thank you to President Kwaśniewski, President Komorowski, and to all Polish elites who were supporting us through those difficult times. Even the most difficult times and moments, nobody from Poland was saying Ukraine is not important. And therefore today, in the Wroclaw Forum, you pay so much attention to Ukraine, its problems, and I would like to thank you for that, because it demonstrates how important our partnership is, and that I would wish that we remain partners in future. Thank you very much. True. Okay. Yes, we were brought up in this conviction, and yes, just as President Wałęsa said, there is no Europe without free Belarus and independent Ukraine, but also because we are friends and we are in a family and nobody is eavesdropping on us, we would like to speak honestly and openly about these problems, because when I had a radio interview with the Prime Minister Azarov, and when I heard today the statement of Deputy Prime Minister, I can see that the comment is that crime existed and that she committed a crime. And I would say I cannot understand what was that crime and how to react to it. If you punish with the prison sentence mistakes and bad government, with prison. Well, my first candidate would be the chairman of Lehman Brothers, the president of Lehman Brothers in the UK, which in the US, which led to the global crisis. And in my opinion, it seems that Americans should sentence him to death row, not even just a long sentence, but it's not the kind of crime in the understanding that we have. Therefore, it's difficult for us to understand why you keep your political opponent in prison under accusation of making wrong economic decisions. Yes, we had this period where there were attempts to put people into prison. Yes, in '94, for example, there was a commission for constitutional responsibility, and I even had to fly back from London, and together with Palcerowicz, we were put in dock and answer the questions why we made certain moves. And here we can see also that a certain threshold was crossed to why it was crossed and resulted in this severe prisoner sentence. We have to wait. Let's not make any pronouncements. Let's wait till the courts finish their work, and then we'll be able to make our own decisions. What is the problem? Essentially, without pronouncing a sentence, what is the problem with Tymoshenko? I wouldn't like to put myself in the position of the prosecutor or judge, or neither an advocate of hers, however, or nobody else's. But I think we should remember that Ukraine pays the highest price for gas. And naturally, the consequences of that for Ukrainian economy are at least very bad, to say delicately. And perhaps, therefore, without pronouncing judgment before the decision of the court, we should wait. And I hope this whole matter will be blown away. And if today's government was cleverer and started to explain to the world public opinion, politicians, what are the tragic economic consequences of the mismanagement and bad decisions, I think, therefore, there would be a much higher understanding of the situation. Unfortunately, things work the other way, and she is perceived as a victim, as a poor orphan who has been maltreated and put into prison for God knows what reasons. And this is being seen as a very big minus on the record of this government. So, of course, we understand the problem the issue of Tymoshenko creates, and we are all hoping that by the autumn we will be able to resolve this situation, and we'll start with a clean slate after the autumn elections, and start everything from beginnings, and because naturally I hope and I would wish that we don't have to take off our democratic costume, and that Ukraine will remain will remain a democratic country and will not get diverted from the road to democracy. And of course, I hope that opinions shared by more than me and Mr. Klitschko.
I have a couple of questions, a couple of commenters. Ms. Herman, first of all, and after that, in Kharkiv, in city Kharkiv, the government of present government signs agreement with Russia for gas with new prices and promising the prices go down. and prices is still same. No, not the same. They growing up. Who signed the agreement with a new agreement with Russia, and who responsible? The prices coming much more higher. It's question. And as a small commenter, you told me I'm very looking good opposition. But my opponents told in the press conference for the fight I'm looking good. But it's much more important after the fight he has a total different opinion. It's first point. The second point you talk about we can work together, we can build together. Just together we can receive a good result in the future. Right now, Ukraine most corrupted country in the world. And the main value around the world, in Europe, is a human, his right. A main value in Ukraine is not secret, it's money. And everybody understand, for money you can buy everyone. Every court decision, every position in government, as money is the main value. With this value, we doesn't have a future. And if I listen from people of government and you representative of party of power, of people in party of region, I have a feeling this fight against corruption is very similar. The war between beans against honey. It's really, and also I like very much the saying. One of them told, the fox can change his fur, but character never. I don't believe we have the future together and can build together the future of our Ukraine. Thank you.
To dobre pytanie. Can the leopard change his spots?
It's a very good saying. Yes, the leopard can't change its spot. But I think that your estimations and my view of the situation in Ukraine and how to approach the problem of corruption, how to reform the situation, deep down there, I think they are the same. Perhaps I don't believe there are many people who share these opinions, but I believe so. I think that we should do it together, you on your part, we on our part, you as a representative of opposition, pointing out our mistakes and showing different roads, and us as authority. And we try to do that. And here President Wałęsa mentioned that people fight now against capitalism, and the problem is that not many people are rich, or rather very few people are rich, and lots of people are very poor. This is also a problem of Ukraine. If we don't understand this problem, if we don't do something which would mean that every person in Ukraine can realize their potential, that they can start their own business, that they won't be living in fear that somebody will come and they'll have to pay a bribe. Without reforming Ukraine, we can understand it. So, you know, when I said that we should change or improve the costume, this is something, this is exactly what I meant. You talked about Kharkov and agreement. You know, the government is not eternal, and the time comes when you have to pay for your decisions, and everybody should be prepared to be responsible and pay for the decisions, but we cannot say You can say, no, we can't judge that because he's in opposition today. We have to go to court and evaluate politician on the basis of his or her efforts for the population, for the effects it has he or she had on their life, on the perspectives that open. I would say the good thing that we are doing now is the reform of legal system and laws, and I think you should and have to help us in that. And whether it's in this or future parliament, you have to participate in that. We shouldn't bring those divisions into society anymore, and we should look at Poland's example in Poland from that point of view, specifically the 2004, the accession to the European Union. And I hope and I wish that we can walk hand in hand, whether I'm authorities and you in opposition or the other way around. Our target is the same. It's Ukraine in the European family. And this is what we have to go together, although perhaps different ways. Thank you very much. And this is what brings us again to Aleksander Kwaśniewski, because Mr. Klitschko was talking about this change of system, which means that, of course, there are new people brought into power that have no history of corruption and no bad record. Mrs. Herman said that we shouldn't look at people and divide them based on their past. And this is what President Kwaśniewski can talk about, because, of course, yes, we were all united in our aim of accessing European Union. However, we were split between us, and one side was wiping the floor with the others, and vice versa, because there was many different viewpoints on the whole situation. And well, I don't question political change, but I'm not a specialist on quarreling. Well, I would like to address those few strands of discussion. Perhaps, first of all, what Mr. Bielecki said. It's very nice what Mr. Klitschko says, that in those years Poland made such huge progress. It's very pleasant, but we are in a different situation, because obviously whether we were in the Soviet sphere of influences, we were not directly one of the republics of the Soviet Union. So the transformation and introduction of reforms, building a free market economy, obviously is something that runs in a completely different way. Our democracy, our participation in the European family, and participation in NATO and democracy, somehow with various dissenting groups, we were able to come to the same consensus and to be able to work together towards that target. And it didn't particularly matter who is in power. Our strategic goals were the same. So that meant that the position in starting negotiations with EU in 91 and the process which ended after 13 years in 2004 on our accession to EU was a great success. And now it's a request to Ms. Herman. And yes, of course, I agree that it is necessary to introduce all those reforms and changes and have an understanding. But the role of achieving understanding and consensus is something that depends on the authorities. And this is something of in the policy of President Yanukovych, which is sadly missing, because the united target has not been been promoted. We don't see this effort of building this kind of consensus. In fact, I can say that any attempt of building such a joint effort have been wasted. And I can only say that we have the same problem emerging now as Ukraine had in 2004, which is particularly dangerous in the situation of approaching parliamentary elections, which really have to be transparent and fair, because if they are not so, the door to European community, to European family, will be firmly slammed in Ukraine's face. And there are no counter-arguments. Obviously, we have to avoid the return to political practices of 2004 in the situation where so many observers had doubts about the way those elections were conducted. It will put me in a very difficult position. Because it would be the worst signal possible that the country that put so much effort and time into building democratic situation in future cannot be blown by jeopardizing the democratic quality, transparency and fairness of elections. And the authorities have to see to that free and fair elections will be a reality, and there are no temptations from any side to interfere with the results of it. And especially in the conditions of very large chances for the opposition to win these elections. Yes, we still have time. I would like to talk about legal issues still. It is necessary to make a reform of law and independent judiciary in Ukraine. Of course, even if it happens next year, because it's a long-term process, because I absolutely cannot accept hearing that this famous Khrushchev's legal codes remain, despite the fact that in September I was told they will happen in October, and then November nothing happens, then we have end of May, beginning of June now, and still none of those promises have been fulfilled. And this is absolutely unacceptable. Whether the intentions are made in Kiev, Wroclaw or Davos, the promises are binding and they should be fulfilled. European Union today is tragically tired with those broken promises, unclear situation where the leader of opposition is in prison, accused of something that seems at least confusing in view of the following contracts signed by the next governments. In future, you will have to create a penal colony, perhaps, for all those prime ministers and politicians who signed those contracts, because the prices are increasing and they will all have to pay for it. If there's no clear ill will and corruption in such activities, the politicians are punished enough by being kicked out of power. It doesn't require punishment in an archaic legal system which hasn't been changed since 1963, where we were living in a completely different world. Nothing to do with the contemporary times. So yes, for free elections, yes, for reforms, yes, for the change of laws, but they can't be just words. And what is the request? Well, let's last till autumn. What is supposed to happen after the election? So again, after the elections, most likely you'll have to build some kind of coalition which will be strong enough to implement these reforms. Yes, of course, Ukraine still has many friends, but let's help each other, because we can't remain your helpful friends without some demonstration of goodwill on your part. I would like to just add one sentence. The biggest argument here will be clear, transparent, fair autumn elections. And that's why I said we have to wait these elections and see the result of legal proceedings. I wouldn't obviously subscribe to this vision of creating penal colony for prime ministers. We'd like to see what will be the outcome of the autumn elections. What will the Ukrainian nation decide who they will elect as their representatives in power? This is the most important thing ahead of us. And as I said, and I would like to repeat again, for us, the clear, fair, transparent elections are the top priority, far more even important than our electoral victory. And we still don't understand, even still, what Ukrainian Prime Minister said on the radio, quoting, Ukrainians understand that Tymoshenko is responsible for our problems, that our gas is twice as expensive as in Germany, that the payments for housing and communal charges are growing all the time. And I find it a bit difficult to see the reasoning behind this kind of argument. But let's leave it aside and behind, because the organizers are prompting us. Perhaps they think the panel is not working very well. So I would like to move on to some kind of forward thinking.
About delivery, not lip service, not talking, but delivery. I'm a doer, I can do it. It's like in sports. You can make it or not. In sports, you don't talk. In tennis, for example, we don't talk, but we rather play and win game, set or game or whatever. So if you had a chance to provide your leadership, what would you like to deliver in Ukraine in those really difficult circumstances? Because we are much more lucky in the early 90s when Europe was booming, peace dividend was paid out, so the times were much better than today. And we do believe in your leadership, if I may act a little bit like your PR assistant.
Thank you for your question. I listen right now, and we meet with President Kwaśniewski many times around the world, everywhere, in New York, in United States, in Ukraine, in Poland, Germany. And I want to say thank you very much. It's true. It's Aleksander Kwaśniewski is the best advocate for Ukraine. He's always support Ukraine very much. But right now I listen many from many people, and also Aleksander told about reform. Ms. Herman also about reform. Reform, it's look like, you know what, reform in Ukraine. We have old house. We talk about tax reform. We talk about medical reform. We pension reform. It's many reform. It's look like we take it. We try to painting this house, this old house with new color, and look like new one. And everybody told we make reform, but the same quality old house stay. What does it mean? It's not any reform in Ukraine work if we not destroyed corruption. the main point in Ukraine, how we can do with that. I studied that very much. And Poland have pretty long period of time, 20 years after Iron Curtain fall down. We doesn't have so much time. If you ask the people, people don't want to wait next 20 years. I was in Georgia just a couple of weeks ago. Last time I was in Georgia for 5 years ago. Country doesn't have electricity. It was pretty bad situation. Right now I was very surprised. I was shocked how big. I listened about that a lot, but I was shocked because what I saw, it's fantasy. How is possible? The country which make export just mineral water and wine. Right now it's electricity also, but anyway, small country. They and the first question for president of Georgia, how is possible? And the advice to fight corruption. Yes, of course, to fight corruption in Georgia was very easy, I told. Small country, 10 times smaller than Ukraine. I mean, population is 10 times smaller than Ukraine, just 4.5 million people. It's easy. As Saakashvili told, it's not. And in Caucasus, it's very close relationship. It's to the people, and you have to get everything and show example by yourself. How clean are you? And Saakashvili told, I can't put out this guy because he's a friend of my friend, his relatives, and the corruption was total. If he make one rules for everybody. It's not important your social status. It's not important how rich are you. It's not important who are you. The rules the same for everyone, and everyone have the same rights in the country. It's not in Ukraine. That's why it's the corruption beginning in Ukraine from politics. What does it mean? Is a clear answer for this question. Illustration. The all politician, they was in opposition. They was in power. After that, they were also in the position, also in the power. They have all chances to make changes in Ukraine. They didn't. That means they also right now before this election they promising a lot. They talking great, but I like saying very much. And one of them told, if you want to see the future of people, look at the past time. I don't believe in people who promise many times to make changes and don't do that. And that's why for proposal from Party of Region to make together changes with opposition, no, we don't want. We just illustration, old generation of politicians. They people who pretty long time have all chances and don't do that have to leave. And one way, it's election. And we fighting for that. And what I can say about that? Just one way, we try to put away this, the people who don't deliver what they promise.
Okay, thank you.
Mogę jedno słówko?
No. There will be final 1 minute for each panelist. 1 minutочка. So we have to conclude. But I like very much what Mr. Klitschko said, because this is what we believe in sports is important, that your track record is important, because in sports you have your results of the past, which are proving whether you are good or not. In business also track record is important. In politics, track record could be always blurred, let's call it like that. But this is the final round now. ostatnia runda, dobrze? Bo mają jeszcze dużo paneli, bardzo dobrych podobno. Więc zaczniemy od pani.
Some more panels, excellent panels. So we start from you, Ms. Herman, and we'll move on to President Kwaśniewski.
Końcowe.
Just your final remark.
Zwracając się do Witalia,
To say, addressing Vitali Klichko, that by saying working together, I didn't mean regional parties. I only meant people who vote for us and people who don't vote for us, people who vote for opposition, and people who vote for the present authorities. Together, all of us have to go ahead. It's difficult to try and place your bets with one part of Ukraine, and really we should change our approach. We have to represent all of the nation, and it's then and only then that we can hope for some success. If we start thinking, no, I'm not going to work with this one or that one because he is so-and-so, nothing will come of it. I said that you are a nice guy because you're a good person, because you don't divide people. You look at Ukraine as a whole, the whole nation, and you want Ukraine finally to be good and happy, not all of us, and all of us walking towards Europe, not only part of us. And I hope that you understand it one day. Thank you very much.
You know what? It's always the last speech is very important because people leave and remind just the last part. I don't want to talk about politics right now. It's right now in a couple of weeks. It's in 1 week. Beginning very important point for Ukraine and Poland. Year 2012. Nelson Mandela told very important message sport have power to change the world, and I can translate a little bit that Euro 2012 have power to change Poland and Ukraine. We build the stadiums, we build the sport infrastructure, we build roads, airports, new hotels. And we're very happy to have so many people who travel to Poland and Ukraine and see how good is the country. And the sport have a change to develop the country for the future, and also the business card, like visit card for whole world, and whole world watching in Poland and Ukraine in a couple of weeks. And I hope also many politicians will be involved in sport, and I listened that about sanction against Ukraine and boycott Euro 2012. It's not good idea. It's not good idea. We forget about boycott in 1980 in Moscow. We forget boycott in 1984 in Los Angeles. It's bring nothing. It's painful for the people, for simple people. It's painful for the sport, and that's why we hope this is chance give new opportunities for our country for the future, and it's very positive. And what I can say for that also as a representative of ambassador of 2012. It's very important also for politics, and make a lot of pressure for politicians in Ukraine. Also, sports not involved in politics, and at the same time, it's also worldwide politics. And that's why we fighting for better future, and I know then better than anyone, without fight, no win. Thank you.
To mówił Piłsudski, to mówił Giedroyć. Nie ma wolnej Polski.
That was Giedroyć and Piłsudski. They did say there is no Poland without free Ukraine. There is no Europe, united Europe, without Ukraine integrated. I think it's still up to date and it's still valid. And it's going to inspire all of you who support the cause. But please bear in mind, and this is request, I'm asking for favor, my Ukrainian friends. We are in a difficult situation now. We are tired. We're in a triangle of Europe, Russian, and Ukraine struggling. And it's all in a buffer zone. So all we need to do is to make efforts. And the steps to be taken is to ensure free, fair elections, recognized and acknowledged by the international community. I'm going to repeat what you've just said, Ms. Herman. For the Party of Regions, this is the priority. Free and fair elections are more important than the victory. In order to do so, you need to carry out reforms, the necessary reforms, in particular in the judiciary. I believe this is an issue which is symbolic, not necessarily political, but symbolic. There is no good way out. I'm now talking about Uchenko and Tymoshenko, representatives of the opposition being in prisons. The trials must not be politically motivated. And Vice Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister Horoszowski quite rightly said, you need to complete the process to ratify the agreement. In order to do so, you need to be determined. You need to be adamant in carrying out reforms, just as Premier Bielecki showed the slide. The important thing is to have in a way, the consent, national consent and common view. In Ukraine, it's very difficult because this is the consent and agreement, an alliance between the North and South, West and East, the rich and the poor. As a former resident of Poland, I would like to wish all the best. But give us a chance. Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. A very good recap. Thank you very much, panelists, for your open attitude and speaking your mind. Thank you very much and all the best at Euro 2012 and over the elections.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next session is about to start now. Please remain at your seats.